My name's Grace. The reason I'm doing this video today is because of EduKid. I know EduKid because my sister in Uganda, Alice, and her husband Darwinton works for EduKid. And today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my favorite food in Uganda that we eat a lot actually. Most children that goes to school mainly eat this food constantly, like for lunch and for dinner and 7 days a week, and maybe they get something else at the end. It's a really brilliant food, and I know you know it because you might have it in your salad and you might have it as a side dish. You might eat it, you know, without knowing that it's actually, in some countries, it's the main food that people eat. And I'm going to show you how to cook it, and we're going to talk about the benefits of it and why people eat it so much and why it's one of my favorite food as well. I love it. I just eat it all the time. First, it's very cheap to cook, and secondly, it's got loads of delicious nutrients in it. So we're going to cook beans, right? Beans is one of the amazing food that people eat in Uganda. I'm going to show you how to cook it with just a few ingredients. Firstly, I'm going to chop some onions. This is not the way that people cook it in Uganda, because to cook beans, you've got to cook it from dry, not from a tin that I'm going to use. So most people, when they start cooking beans in Uganda, they start with something like this. It's absolutely dry, and it takes lots of time to cook. It takes hours and it takes longer to cook it, but I'm going to use the easiest way to cook it because I'm going to use Aldi's favorite beans, kidney beans, right? So easy to use, already cooked. All I need is just a few ingredients. Most people in Uganda eat beans because beans is one of the food that is filling to children. If you have loads of young hungry children, if you cook vegetables, it's not going to fill them. And most of the time people cook beans because it's filling and it's got loads of protein and good nutrition in it. Most foods are cooked with fresh tomato because they don't have thin tomatoes, and fresh tomatoes are absolutely amazing. You can just see the juice in it and how lovely it looks. The riper, the better. So I'm just going to chop them into small pieces. When I was in school, like I was saying, we ate beans for lunch and beans for supper and a bit of porridge for breakfast, because that's the only food that is filling enough for growing young children and giving them a lot of energy so that they can focus on education and not worrying about their stomach rumbling. I can imagine you know how it feels like when you're hungry and you eat and you don't get filled up. And even though you kind of feel a bit sick of it because you eat it all the time, it's the only thing you do. You miss it when you don't eat it, and you want it when you don't cook, even at home. Beans is the food that is cooked, and I'm going to use, like I've said, the way I use it is I drained all the liquid out of it because the preservatives may not be as tasty. So I drain it all, and then I will use some water, add additional water and other stuff to it, and then I'm going to use this. I don't know if it looks like flour, doesn't it? Looks like I'm going to bake, but no, this is maize meal, and we're going to mix it and cook it, and then we're going to have it with the beans. Carbs and protein mixed together, amazing. I'm going to fry it with the onions and tomato, and I'm going to add the beans to it and just mix it. It is what most people can afford. You know, they don't have loads of different spices that they add onto it apart from salt. You cook the beans, you don't fry it, you just mix it with peanut butter, and then you eat it with either this, which is called posho once you've cooked it, or sweet potatoes, or you can have something called cassava, which is a root plant and is also full of carbohydrates and starches and stuff. It's amazing. And the good thing about beans is once you've had it for dinner, you can have leftovers for breakfast. And that's what most families do, because most families don't eat until like 4 or 5 in the evening. They've been working busy all day and the beans have taken so much time to cook. By the time they eat, it's late in the evening. So they cook a little bit more, and then when it comes to the morning and they're hurrying to go to school or to work, they have the leftovers for breakfast, because it's the easiest thing to do. And when you're filled up with the breakfast, you're not worried about lunch, because it's got so much energy in it that helps you, and it kind of keeps you going till you're ready for your next meal in the evening. So we're going to do some cooking now. Okay, so I am going to show you how to cook this. But first of all, I forgot to mention that if you wanted to have a go at cooking from fresh and from dry this, the best option would be to put it in water and leave overnight, so that it kind of soaks up all the water and the moisture. And then when you're cooking it, it won't take as long. But when you start cooking it from dry, it will take at least between 2 to 4 hours, depending on how long the beans have been in storage and how soon it has been harvested. Because when you just harvested it, it will take less time cooking than when you cook it from storage. Most children in Uganda, they start cooking very early. It's not because their mum is forcing them to do it, it's just because they feel they need to learn for the future, because if they learn to cook, then one day they can look after themselves. So we're going to need some oil, and I'm going to just have a little bit of drop, and then we're going to put some onions in, and then we're going to cook the tomato, and then we're going to add the beans and a bit of water in it and just let it cook for a little bit, and some salt. And we're going to make the posho using just water and the flour. So we need to put the oil in into the saucepan and let it just warm a little bit. So we're just going to, I've already got some in here, I'm just going to add a little bit in there. Okay, just let the oil warm up. If the fire gets a little bit too hot, you might need to reduce it, but that's not an option when you're cooking with charcoal. You just have to deal with it. So we're going to put some, you can hear the sizzling sound. That's the onions kind of cooking. Have you ever tried cooking with firewood? It's not easy. You have to deal with the smoke first of all, and then you have to deal with the heat that's coming off the fire as you cook. But it's quite fun. So you just let the onions just brown a little bit before you add the tomato, and just stir it every now and again to make sure that they're being cooked evenly. I loved cooking, but I never loved cleaning up. But I think most people are the same. I would cook for everyone, but I would not want to wash up. So when the onions is cooked, you kind of add the tomato, all the juice up. Just hear it sizzling. I'm just going to increase the heat a little bit. With the tomato, you let it cook until all the juices come out of it, and it's absolutely lovely. So when you add the beans, you just soak it up in it. You soak all the niceness out of it. While I'm doing this, you might think, oh, she's forgotten snacks. What do children in Uganda eat for snacks? Maybe biscuits or chocolate or yogurt? No, not one bit. Most children, like growing up, we had loads of mango trees dotted around, lots of fruit. I think we're now ready to add the beans. All right. Ooh, looking good. I'm going to add a bit of salt to it and pepper, but mainly salt if you're in Uganda because they may not have pepper. I'm going to add a bit of water. Usually, here I can just get the water from the kettle, boil it and just pour some hot water in it. But usually at home in Uganda, you will need to boil the water in the saucepan. And now I'm going to make the posho. Okay, like I said, we need some flour. I don't tend to measure it, like I said. Measurement is not a thing, not so much of a thing. You just kind of estimate, guesstimate, that's what to say. And then I mix it. If it's not enough, I can just add. To mix it until it's absolutely thick and the flour has completely kind of dissolved and cooked up. Just imagine if you're a cook in a school and you're making this for 1,000 students. Can you imagine how big the saucepan would be? In my school, they had a massive stick with a big saucepan, and they'll move it like more than one person wielding this massive stick to make a posho. See how it's looking now? So this is our posho, made with just hot water and this flour, and we've used a ladle to make it, to thicken up the mixture so it is nice and round, and then you can eat it. And then this is our beans. You can see how lovely it looks, just with tomato and onions. If you're trying to cook this, you can add spices. You can add like things like curry powder. You can add spices that you like. You can add some peppers on it. You can add different things, but most people in Uganda wouldn't have all of those spices. But when you're trying it here, you can do that. And we're going to serve it now. We're going to use a bowl for the beans. Just put a little bit in a bowl. Yummy, yummy. Okay, we're going to leave it there. And voila, you're ready to eat. How do you think you're going to eat that though? With a spoon, it will be a bit difficult. With a fork, no. Most people eat using their hands. Shall I demonstrate to you how to do it? Okay. Now, if I try to eat with my left hand home, it wouldn't be nice. But because I'm left-handed, I'm going to use it anyway. But the best most people eat using right hand. I just thought. So all you do is to get a little bit of the posho, right? And then you make a little bit of hole in it using two hands. And then all you do, you dip it in the beans. And lovely. And then you eat this and you go playing because you're full and you're happy and got protein and carb and all that nutrients that you need, and it's healthy and it helps you grow, and it's just wonderful.